Hello, folks. Welcome to the next edition of Tupac Was an Actor. Now, this series is called Narcissism is a Network. And the name of my channel is Reed Matrix. I'm trying to help you understand the structures around you. I'm trying to use Tupac's tragic life as a way for us to examine the structures that were around him. And it's possible we can just look at what he said and how he viewed the world. And mostly importantly, how he chose to engage with the world. This is part 8. Tupac Was an Actor. It's probably one of the most important parts of this series you can see because it's here that I explain the concept of duality. And this is something that you're trapped in. I mean, duality is a part of the human experience. You can't escape it. No, you can't. It's a part of everything you do. You live in an enclosed environment. And in this environment, you can't create anything and you can't destroy anything, meaning you can't add anything to this environment and you certainly can't take it away. Everything sort of exists in relationship to everything else. There's actually a law in physics that says two bodies will have an attraction towards each other, and I can imagine how all of these objects are sort of coalescing and sort of form this cohesive matrix structure around us. It's very interesting. And so there's certain rules that govern this environment that you need to know and that Tupac did not understand. That is the law of duality. That is, what goes up must come down. If you want the peak of your tree to reach the heavens and up to the clouds, then the root system, it must tunnel down and reach down into hell. And there's no way around it. Remember the concept that the bright stars burn out fast? Yeah, you don't have bright stars that go on forever. There's a consequence to burning at that rate, meaning you consume everything you have and you unalive yourself earlier than need to be, right? And so this is the same thing that happened to Tupac. Had he had the right acting coach, he could have said, hey, pull back from the gangster stuff because you're a multimillionaire. You got a lot of good things going for you. You're acting and everything. You don't need to be involved with the people who would be carrying guns and things like that, because besides you're an actor and besides everybody can just sue you. They don't have to get back at you. They don't have to get back with you, Tupac. They can just sue you. And what are you going to do? And then they're going to get a huge sum of money for nothing because you're a celebrity. So it didn't make sense of him believing the role of a gangster when he really was. He was locked into character because he got traumatized because Puffy shot him up 5 times in the elevator in New York, right? Same story. He was such a high, his star rose up really quickly and then it disappeared that quickly at the age of 25 years old, gunned down. So let me help you understand what duality is. Everything around you is considered an object, right? Look all around you. Everything you can sort of look at it as its own distinct object, all the way down to like the grains of sands and things like that, all the way down to the molecules. They're still considered like objects, right? So this environment is littered with objects, right? Now I'm going to explain another concept. This is a little bit more complicated, but hold on with me, right? If you go through, hold on one second. Okay, where I'm at. I'm gonna give you another concept about duality, about objects. So everything you look around you, everything is an object, right? Everything is an object. Okay, here's the concept. Okay, what about your thoughts, right? What about what you're thinking? What are those? They're also objects, right? If you look at my series on the networks in the brain and the receptors and the communications and the signaling and things like that, you sort of begin to understand how memory works. And memory is modifications of actual proteins, right? And when you zoom down on that molecular level, the protein in and of itself is still just another object, but it exists at the molecular level. And this is amazing to sort of understand because those objects that exist as your thoughts, they follow the same rules as the objects that exist outside here in the world, right? And it's the objects that create the duality. And so everything around you, and even the thoughts you think, they're objects. And so what happens? The objects themselves, they have sort of like a magnetic pull to them. They have like a quality to them that sort of lures you into them. Like some objects, let's say like a stack of money, would likely lure you into it, or something like that. Some objects, let's say a diamond ring, will actually capture your attention. You know, some objects, they may be very difficult for you to detach from because they have a very strong magnetic pull, right? So objects in themselves have qualities to them that you need to understand. And that's what Tupac needed to understand. When you engage with some objects, they have such a strong magnetic pull that it's very difficult for you to separate yourself from. Let's say drugs or crack cocaine. People who experience union using the object crack cocaine, they can take 2, 3, 4 decades before they're able to separate themselves from that object, meaning no more contact with cocaine. But in the process of trying to get their liberation, it destroyed their families, it destroyed their wealth, it destroyed their health, it destroyed their finances, it destroyed their relationships, it destroyed their bodies. And so they get a lot of destruction from these objects. If some of these objects can be very dangerous to you. Another example, like look at narcissists as objects, right? Look at narcissists as objects. And look at the sort of manipulative gravitational pull they have, right? Right? And they come after you with everything to try to harm you, right? And it may take time and effort for you to separate from these sick type of objects because of the magnetic pull they have, right? So here, with these objects, people may be attached to things that they can't detach from. And because they can't detach from these things, it's hard to let go, right? And because you let go, you continue to engage with objects that's beyond their life cycle or beyond their benefit. Each object sort of has a lifespan of its own. It goes through its own cycle where there's a growth, there's a stabilization, and then there's a decline, and then eventually there's a death. And the duality is when Tupac started his career, he was in the growth phase, and that's when he became famous. But after that incident, when he shifted to his lower self, he can only exhibit other parts of the shadow, other parts of the duality, meaning the bad part. So for example, duality, if you have good, then you must have bad. So he had fame that he interpreted as good, but when it went on, it turned bad. And that's what he couldn't understand, right? So if you're going to have hot, you have to have cold. If you're going to have left, you have to have right. If you must have up, you must have down. If you must have good, then you must have bad. All of these things must exist for this entire environment to take place. For all of these things that goes on, it must exist. And that's what Tupac needed to understand. I mean, he really needed to understand what duality meant, because when he started creating certain objects, they came back and it unalived him, right? Remember the saying, You reap what you sow, right? You, what's the other saying? Is that I forgot the other saying, if I could remember it. So here, this is a video I'm about to show you with Tupac, right? And it seems as if his crowd turned against him, right? And he doesn't understand why. And begin, remember, he started off with his higher self. So with his higher self, he has something to offer them. But when he doubled down to his lower self, he lost all of his gifts and he was just one of them. And there's no way that they're going to pay attention to him. And they did what they usually do. They turned their back on him. Why? Duality. He should have understood the turn was going to come. Why? Because they can only love you so long before they start hating you. You know how it is. Let me show you this. Videotape video here. It's Tupac. Let's take him.
Yourself in 20 years from now. If God give me breath for 20 more years, I see myself changing the world because my thought patterns are so opposite of what's the norm. Really? So I would have to change the world, or I have to be changed by the world.
How is it working with Suge and East Coast for you? And a lot of your East Coast fans feel like your new allegiance to the West Coast has felt, a lot of them feel maybe you're not as loyal to the East Coast anymore.
That's so nonsense.
So remember, this is the time when he was shot in New York 5 times and no one in New York spoke up for him, right? So he understood Puffy was behind it, right? And so he ran to another sociopath, Suge Knight, over on the West Coast. And when he did that, they turned on him even more. So not only did none of them stand up for him when they attempted to unalive him, but then when he fled to escape the environment, they doubled down on their hatred against him. And this is the duality that he needed to understand. He needed to understand that this was all a part of the process, Tupac. When they love you, man, they're going to have to hate you. You're going to have to grow up, man. You're going to have to listen to that. Look at Donald Trump, right? Love you one time, hate you, right? I mean, he's not going to damage himself, or he's not going to stop his agenda for himself. But that's what he did. So listen here, look further.
Because this is not a new allegiance to the West Coast. I've been on the West Coast all this time. It's just because some people, not all, right, some people on the East Coast be on their dick so hard that they never heard me say that I'm living on the West Coast. Right. It's just that by me keeping it real, I always said where I came from. I always gave New York their props. On Me Against the World, I took a whole song to give it up. So now on the next album, when I want to give it up from my home, where I'm at, everybody got a problem? Why they don't have no problem with Biggie saying Brooklyn in the house every fucking show he do? Why they don't have a problem with Bronx and boom? They just did a Sprite commercial off The Bridge and KRS. But why is it not hip hop when I do it? Well, I mean, goddamn.
So he released his album and everything, and the folks from New York, they jump on him and down him and trash him. And he said, I don't understand why you guys trashing me. I'm the one who made the most contribution to the rap scene in New York. Look what he says further. But he's experiencing duality, and now the same unconscious crowd hates him.
Suddenly a nigga tripping when I do it. Why? Everybody else could have a war, have beef within the music, talk about differences, and it's okay. It's music, it's hip hop, it's groundbreaking. When I do it, it's war. And that's all I'm doing. All I'm doing is saying I'm tired of you talking about where you from. And if that's what we're gonna do now, because we was doing it like hip hop was one nation. And I have proof to say what I was doing. I did more for the East Coast than the East Coast did.
And so, Tupac is in his lower self because he is trying to please the crowd, right? Here's what happens. When you're stuck in your lower self, you don't have an internal sense of self. You don't have the internal dignity, internal structure. You only have the external component on your ego. That is the people around you. So if the people around you think you're doing good, you're doing good. If the people around you think you're doing bad, you're doing bad. So him stuck, traumatized, and locked into his lower self, devoid of any access to any empathy or internal sense of self, Tupac at this point is 100% reliant upon the opinions of the crowd. And he tries to go to appease the crowd, and you can't do that with unconscious people. Why? Because your higher self wouldn't do that. Your higher self would keep evolving, not try to please, right? The higher self can create something that no one likes, but still see the beauty in it. The problem with Tupac at this point, trapped into his lower self, when he produces his work, when anyone says it's bad, he believes it's bad. And therefore he's injured, right? Good, bad, good, bad. So the crowd, the New York crowd, just abandoned Tupac. And when he went to the West Coast and released his album, and when he said New York, they said, no, man, you're on the West Coast.
I put more guns in East Coast niggas' hands than East Coast niggas did when they came out here.
So he's doubling down on these objects, putting guns into people's hands. So remember when I said that everything around your objects and certain objects carry certain sort of like consequences or attractions to them, right? And so if you're putting guns into people's hands, you're a multimillionaire, right? You're an actor, right? And you are putting guns in people's hands to shoot someone you don't know, right? That behavior now, that's the duality. That's the problem there. That's the duality there that can create the sequence of events that resulted in him being unalived. Right?
On the more weed gates and weed spots and safe havens and safe spots than the East Coast did.
It seems like he cooked them up with guns, weed spots, chill spots, meaning the lady spots. So he's showing them the underground. He's an underground tour guide. So he said, I served as an underground tour guide for the hooligans from New York, and I supplied them with guns, girls, and alcohol, and weed. That's what he said, guns, girls, and weed. That's not going to end up well for you, Tupac. It's not going to end up well, bro.
I put more rappers on than they did. I gave Biggie his first shows. I was the one that I was that bridge that niggas used to walk on to get over here. I explained it. I'm the one that told you.
Now, that came out of his mouth. The purpose of this whole series, Tupac as an actor, is to help you guys understand that he was the beginning of all of this, a lot of the stuff that we see right now. And they basically unalived him and took his ideas and rebranded them as their own. And I'm going to show you, this ain't the first time Puffy did that, right? It's not the first time. He did someone before this. I'll show you later. He did something similar to this. Okay, so look at this.
I'm why all these niggas run around with a gangbang on their payroll now.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be
Is there still a beef going on with you and Big?
It was never a beef. It's only a difference in opinion.
Right.
To me, if I like my homeboy should gave me the best advice I could ever get from anybody. He said when people ask him if he's beefing with Bad Boy with Puffy, he says like me going to a playground and picking on a little kid.
Right.
That's like me being mad at my little brother because he's getting cash now.
Yeah, remember remember I told you that this all was about stealing his potential, right? Puffy was after the potential, not the cash in his pocket, right? This is a different type of hit, right? Puffy sees something that's growing and he wants to get ahead of it. That's the motive, that's the incentive.
No, I'm not mad at that. I'm just mad at my little brother when he don't respect me. Now, when you don't respect me, I'm gonna spank your ass. I don't give a fuck how rich you got on the block. I'm your big brother. I will break your big ass down.
Now, he's talking about Biggie. He's talking about Biggie. And like he said, he was the one that put Biggie on his first shows, right?
And that's my only point. And I feel as though he wronged me. You got out of hand and you wronged me. You got seduced by the power, not because he's an evil person, but because money is evil if it's not handled right. If you lose your composure, you can do anything. And he fear got stronger than love, and niggas did things they know they weren't supposed to do. They know in their heart. That's why they in hell now. They can't sleep. That's why they telling all of the reporters and all the people, why they doing this? They fucking up their pop, because they in hell. They can't make money. They can't go anywhere. They can't look at themselves because they know the prodigal son has returned. I'm alive.
But they can take everything from you, Tupac. They can take everything from you. My point here is you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Let me, I'm going to look up the lyrics. The lyrics to the song Hit 'Em Up. Okay, see, let me see some lyrics. Okay, now I don't want to get any YouTube strikes for this, but this is an example of what I'm talking about with duality is if you put these things out there, meaning live by the sword, it's a closed system. They have like it sends like a wake out. It impacts the people or the egos around you, and those egos are unconscious. And those egos can only act and react. They can only react to things. There's no thinking. So when they get that wave, that wake that you initiated, when they come back at you, they come back automatic. They come back unconscious. They come back primitive. And that's the mechanism that I believe that resulted in his unaliving. For example, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I think this set the stage of it, because this is just too much broadcasting bad stuff out there for people to listen, be impacted to it, and then expect nothing else to happen as a result. Let's see here. Oh, this is wrong. Hit 'em up. Okay, first, I ain't got no friends, right? Yeah, he realizes that. I ain't got no friends. That's why I did your lady. You MFA. Okay, yeah, this is really intense. This is derogatory. It devalues people. It devalues her. It devalues him, and that's not good. That's not good. So he devalued. This is, I guess, Faith Evans and Biggie Smalls, and so these are objects he put out there, and can you imagine these people? Whether or not they did it or not, if they did it, it's just going to make them more determined. If they're not, you've just really traumatized some people. So imagine having other people listening to them describe you in the song and things like that. I'm not sure if that's going to even be legal anymore. You know, West Side. Okay, now he's talking about the West Coast, so he pledged his allegiance to the West Coast after the East Coast abandoned him. And then Bad Boy Killers. So now you're talking about murdering the people who he believed harmed him. Let's see here. Okay, first off, F your lady and your clique you claim. You claim to be a player, but I did your wife. You know, that's really derogatory. We bust on bad boys, you messed up for life. Look, plus Puffy trying to see me. You tried to kill me, right? Biggie Small and Joyce Mafia, some ladies like that. Little Caesar, go home, go ask your homie how I leave you. Cut you up and leave you in pieces. Now be deceased. Little Kim, don't mess around with real G's. I snatch you up off the street. So let's forget about peace. I let them all know for life. Don't let the West Side ride tonight, right? Man, West Side. Bad boy murdered on wax and killed. F around and get your caps peeled. And then look, grab your Glock when you see Tupac. Right? Call the cops when you see Tupac. You know, I don't want anybody grabbing their Glock when they see Reed. I don't want anyone calling the cops when you see Reed. This is just bad messaging, right? It's very bad messaging, right? And let me just see here. Let me just see if I can just see. Okay, and then I'm gonna search this. What is the impact of Tupac's song "Hit 'Em Up" on children? And let me just run it through an AI search engine and just see what this, and unfortunately, after he got shot, he stuck in his lower self, and now he's creating this type of music. Okay, research indicates that exposing children to violent and explicit media, including songs like Tupac's "Hit 'Em Up," is linked to negative behavioral and emotional outcomes. This is the outcome of the music he's producing. The aggressive lyrics, hostility, and gang-related themes in "Hit 'Em Up" can be harmful to a developed child's development, especially for those in vulnerable circumstances. All right. Violence and aggression. The song is a brutal diss track that includes a declaration of war. It is the lyrics fueling the East Coast, West Coast hip-hop rivalry. So now, Tupac on the West Coast when he really only from the East Coast. Man, he getting it all mixed up. Hostility and threats. "Hit 'Em Up" is filled with aggressive and hostile content directed at Tupac's rivals. Normalization of violence. This type of content can normalize antisocial behavior in the developing minds of children. Misogyny. Violent rap songs can also promote misogyny views and lead to young women to express acceptance of violence in dating situations. This is, now remember, if you go back in the beginning of the series on Tupac as an actor, I talked about his higher self and how he talked about he was really a poet. And he was saying that he was using rap as a way to sort of express his poetry. However, he could have, had he fallen back to his actor modality, that he could have just changed his different modality from gangster rap to something else to express his poetry. He got locked into his role, and he began to see himself and his lower self as the real Tupac, which is a delusion. And the behaviors that he exhibited while he was playing the role got him unalived real quick. But I think that this is the thing that sets all the hostility up. Let's say that if he only did, let's say, positive songs, let's say Will Smith. Okay, let's say Will Smith, right? If he only did like Will Smith songs and then he got into a fight at the MGM and Will Smith stomped him out like that, the guy probably would have just laughed about it like, I got stomped out by Will Smith. They probably wouldn't have considered it as something significant, right? They probably could have considered comical and could have gotten more attention out of it. So it certainly wouldn't go and try to kill him like that. But this set the stage, right? This is that duality. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. everything that he put out there in his lyrics actually happened to him. Everything, right? And then everyone, almost everyone, including Puffy, he was the one that got away with the golden goose, and he was the one that ultimately became a billionaire. All right, off these ideas. Why? Because Puffy later moved to California himself, right? So here now, Tupac the poet is producing his work is damaging to young children. So this is why I think that Tupac was really damaged, and he was really locked in his character, because I don't think he had an awareness of the destructive influence that these lyrics could have on these immature developing minds. It frames reality in a way that wasn't real to everybody's. This is just the inner workings of Tupac's traumatized and deranged mind, right? So his internal experience shouldn't represent all the experiences for young Black boys. So when young Black boys listen to that, they should see it as just a very narrow perspective, but it shouldn't represent their viewpoint. But I think it may have caused them to identify with that viewpoint. And identifying with viewpoint is the distorted thinking that causes them so much pain, that causes them so much disruption in their lives. So here, let me see here. I'm going to show you here. Okay. So here, let's go ahead and watch this one here. Here, Diddy reacts to being asked if he put Puffy, if he put a hit on Tupac. Now, notice this with these type of characters. Their ego, because they lack an internal sense of self, their ego is unable to understand the perspective of someone else. So it just doesn't exist, right? And so in these people, they have a tendency to absolutely never talk about the victim. I mean, they will never do anything that highlights or potentially highlight the victim's struggle. They make sure in the conversation, the victims are never brought around. And just watch here, and then watch his body language and things like that, okay?
Oh, you have to do it like a journalist.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Now, it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah. Check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even.
Now, look at the manipulative tone. He's applying the rules to everyone. And this is what narcissists do. They set the conditions first. You ever engage with a narcissist? They're going to set the conditions first, right?
They ain't nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Now, he just shut the whole thing down, right? Let me show you how he did that, and apologize and then thank them.
About things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you have to do it like a journalist.
Yeah. No, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believe.
Look at he said, yeah, it's nonsense. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's nonsense.
It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It's
which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
He said, which we don't believe. And then here's another thing what narcs do. Narcs are quick to highlight somebody who's supporting them, right? If they're stuck in a situation and they're surrounded by people where they're caught, they're going to look for that one person to give them the lead way out. And then they go, focus on that one person. And look, he's in the hot seat now. Look exactly how he responds.
And it's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
He said, yeah. He said, we don't believe anyway. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Now, now there's a similarity between Puff Daddy and Suge Knight. Okay. The similarities is neither one of them had talent, and Biggie and Tupac were their tickets, right? Tupac was the creative inspiration for Puffy to steal, right? And Suge Knight was trying to use Tupac to sort of build his dynasty. So neither one of these characters, Puffy or Suge, had the capacity to survive on themselves because no one would have found them to be relevant. They needed these two, right? They needed these two. These two were exploited by them, right? And that's some very similar characteristics. Several characteristics. But let me look here and show you how Puffy was stealing everyone's things. And in fact, when I found out that the whole Biggie Smalls character was a stolen character, it's amazing. Let me show you this. The Notorious, look, the Notorious B1. Who's Notorious B1? The Notorious B1, this is the unfortunate kid that Biggie and Puff stole his whole style, right? And this is the same thing they did to Puff. This is the same thing they did to Tupac. And so they were stealing things as you go along. So listen to this. So I can't play the whole thing because of rights and things like that. I can't play the whole thing, but this is the same. Let me go back here. But this is the same. Let me see here. Short change niggas, snort cane niggas, extortion came quicker, bought the range. Let me. It still tickle me. He stole his style. He stole his style from the man, right? And unfortunately, this kid here never came to be because this hooligan here simply fit his mold, right? He fit his mold, stole his style. Puffy cloned him, then stole his style, right? He was doing things like that. So here, what else did I need to see also? With short change niggas. Yeah, so he stole his style. So let's see. Okay, so live by the sword, you die by the sword. My contention is Tupac was traumatized and locked in his lower self, and he believed he was the character. Why? Because he was traumatized by a psychopath who was stealing people things, targeting people, cloning things, cloning people's style, and carrying guns. And he was being surrounded and pursued by a real gangster, all alone. Now that is a real gangster who is creeping in the background where nobody knows he's there, right? Tupac wasn't a gangster, he was an actor, and he was acting like the gangster. So the behavior of Puffy during the time he was targeting Tupac was gangster-like behavior. But the behavior of Tupac before he died was characterological, and it was a performance, right? He was playing a thug, the same way the gentleman played on American Gangster when he shot the man in the leg inside the party, That's the same thing he was doing. And then here's another thing, that Tupac really didn't fight like a gangster either, right? Because if you look at the video in the MGM with him stomping out the guy, he looks just like Puffy when Puffy was stomping out Cassie, right? Puffy was stomping out Cassie the same way Diddy was stomping out Orlando and everything. So these are not, see, Tupac was a actor, and that's how he thought he should engage with men, right? Engage with men. That's a theatrical performance and everything, but it's not what real gangsters do. And unfortunately, he cast those objects out there, and those objects came back at him, and it unalived him. And I'm so sorry that he didn't have anyone around him who would speak up for him or would help him get out of this Sigma role that he was trapped in. Okay. So Duality, Narcissism is a network. Tupac was an actor. Part number 8, Duality. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Take care, y'all. Read out. Ciao.